Hello, writers. Come write with me. I am McCullough Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with McCullough. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is Friday, which is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then send your chapter with written permission to writewithmccullough@gmail.com. I will post the email address at the end of the video and also in the more. I'm looking forward to reading your chapters, even if I can't read them all on the channel. I just want to read them. All chapters read on Fridays, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. This story is PG-13, so if you're under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. This story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last two stories we heard. The title of this story is Elloni's Pride. And today we are reading chapter 11 out of book 1. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier and request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific. Now, let's start Elloni's Pride, book 1, Breaking Point. This is chapter 11, More Connections. Well past midnight, Bradley received, "Hey Bradley, are you awake? I remembered a couple of names." And Bradley shook his head and looked around. He had fallen asleep because he wasn't accustomed to keeping watch. He thought to himself, "Okay, I'm awake." "Bradley, are you awake? I feel you're thinking, but just not with me." "I'm awake. What did you want?" "I remembered a couple of names. The first one was Charlotte. She's a linker. Can you cast a charm and find out where she is?" "I can try," thought Bradley, as he sat up a bit more. He said the words to the charm in his mind and inserted the name Charlotte. Soflin raised up on her elbow as she received. "Hello, I'm Bradley. Browser wanted to know where you are." Soflin thought in return. "Bradley, I know you. We've thought together before. Why are you introducing yourself?" Bradley pushed his eyebrows together. He was guessing his charm hadn't worked. He thought, "I tried to cast a charm on a linker named Charlotte, but I guess it didn't work. Can I only do so many charms? We may have thought about this already, but I don't remember the answer." "The question has certainly been in your thoughts, but I never felt that you directed them to me, and I didn't want to put limits on the magic. We did think about connecting more than just one person, like connecting a group. The Taylors, according to Lydia, are with Libya." Oh, those two names are way too close. Anyway, back to the original thoughts. We don't want to stray because everything has a priority and timing. King Damon Tade had Charlotte killed before Browser went into prison, at least according to the news I gathered. So that's been years now. If you cast a charm on a dead person, there's no telling what the magic will do. I guess this time Charlotte is close enough to Soflin, my name, so it just picked me. So why are you casting a charm on her?" "Browser wants to find the old group of linkers," thought Bradley. "Ah, well, casting charms with their names is probably as good a way as any," thought Soflin. "If you do find one, think back with me, but I believe Browser is the last one left from the last group." Okay, thought Bradley. Then Bradley looked around. The boys hadn't stirred, but Hagar had raised his head and was watching him. Bradley stroked Hagar and thought to Browser, "That one didn't work. Which one is next?" Browser thought 2 more names to him, and each time the charm didn't cast on the linker, but Bradley got a person each time. For the name Cam Knott, he got Kempton, Lydia's older brother. And the reason he knew it was Kempton was because of the thoughts of Lydia and Thrasher getting to sleep under the bark they found, and how happy he was for them. While all those thoughts didn't make a lot of sense, Bradley thought Kempton was probably sleeping, and he knew the names of the siblings. When he cast the charm with the name Hexfarce, he got Hector, and the thoughts went on for several minutes incoherently. Finally, Bradley was able to discern who Hector was, and he knew he was from his village. Bradley encouraged him to gather his family and leave the village. Before Bradley thought with Browser again, he thought to himself that it was the middle of the night and people might be sleeping. So that's why some of the thoughts seemed strange. The next name he got from Browser and cast a charm on was Merrick. And he got someone named Mercic. It took a while for Bradley to discern that the person was in the kingdom north of them under King Fate-Right's rule. The last name Browser gave to him to try was Vralter. And the person he cast a charm on was a Vralter, but his thoughts felt funny, and Vralter thought that he was dead. Vralter asked Bradley many times where he was supposed to go. Bradley wasn't sure, but he told Vralter they were meeting and he should find them. Bradley then recapped with Browser, and then he decided that was enough for the night. He wanted to think with Soflin about Vralter, but he would wait until the morning. Bradley noticed Hagar was still awake, so he asked Hagar if he could watch over them while he slept. "I don't know how to do a lot, but I watched the woods tonight." "Good. I'm going to catch some wings before daylight." Bradley lay down and slept. Kosher had fallen asleep at least a couple of times, but now in the gray of dawn he saw his sister Kala stir. He re-said the words in his mind several times before he cast the charm on him. He was actually scared of casting a charm, especially on someone he cared for, because what if he didn't say the right words, and he accidentally said a different word, and that word was harmful? He recited the words in his mind once more, and decided that they needed a connection between them. So he carefully said all the words and inserted Kala's name. Immediately, Kala sat up and looked around. Kasha put a finger to his lips and thought, I think his last name is Simtar. Mr. Simtar received the words to the charms. If you understand this, then think something to me. Whoa, this is strange. I see dust or dew coming out of me and heading to you. She motioned with her hand at first, but then she felt a bit ridiculous or foolish, so she dropped her hand. But she still stared at the golden dust floating out of herself and into her brother. I don't see it, but I feel it. I feel something too, like your voice is vibrating inside me. I wanted to cast the charm on Ma first, but Mr. Simtar thought Ma would have to do the 3 younger ones, so that's why I did you first. That makes sense. But are we limited? I mean, I watch over Lydia a lot, and you watch over Thrasher, so maybe we should cast on them as well. And that's the thing. We don't know how many. Kala nodded her head and folded her feet under herself. Well, I'm ready for the words, and I will cast on Ma and then Lydia. We have to have a connection before those dogs come. Don't think about the dogs, thought Kosher. Pa used to tell stories of your thoughts making things come true, and I would think, well, I didn't think for the soldiers to come kill people. So I dismissed it. But what you just said or thought was that you could see your thoughts leave you. The dew or dust you saw has to be that. Wow. That's scary. But if that's true, then someone thought for death. It could have just been the soldiers put in kosher. Yeah, you're right. And then kosher thought the words to the charm, and he thought to her his fear about saying different words, but he changed his word fear to suspicion. And Kala agreed that made sense, and she thought a few words they knew to him. Feel, fell, peel, pale, dot, dote, fire, fur. We have a lot of words that are similar. When you listen to Lithia try to talk, she sometimes leaves out sounds, and it is so cute to listen to. But if I said the word without the sound, you would think I meant what I said, like butter and brother. Kosher laughed a little to himself. Okay, I had a fear, suspicion, and you have confirmed it. We need to be careful with these words. Cast on Thresher and maybe Kimpton. I'll do Ma and then Lithia. And then I'll try Mr. Simtar's 2-year-old, Matrim. They agreed and started connecting people as people woke up. They would see how many they could do. Soflin woke up and felt herself covered with dew. Since her invisibility dome didn't interfere with that, she gently woke Lydia and showed her how to harvest the dew, so they could have some later. She explained that they could have harvested water from the river, but they hadn't, because they were worried about the soldiers. However, next time they might need to take the few minutes and harvest water from the river. Lydia understood and enjoyed all that Soflin taught her. Libya had already started her reading lessons when the 48 tailors returned from King Damontade's kingdom. They were buzzing with news and excitement, so everyone gathered around. Keechan scampered up Libya's long skirt and kept going all the way to her shoulder. What did I miss? Something big, judging by the ruckus. I don't know, thought Libya. The tailors took out the things out of their pockets and they enlarged them to the normal size, so that it seemed that things just suddenly appeared, and Libya jumped back and the rest of the tailors fluttered back. There was a large wooden soldier for Libya to practice against since she didn't have an opponent. There were several wooden practice rods so she didn't have to use a stick, and there were lots of extras when one broke. There were water sacks and shields of different shapes, and swords and chains and spike boards and cuffs and keys. It was a huge pile of assorted things. Felicity thought, what is all of this? And all the 48 tailors started explaining. Libya needs to drink water if she wants to be big. Libya needs to fight the wooden soldier. Libya needs to use chains as well as swords. Libya needs to use whips. On and on and on. No one could process all of it at once, so Felicity held up one finger. One tailor fluttered forward. We'll put most of it back, but Libya needs to at least see it. Another fluttered forward. Donter, too, if he wants to make it. Felicity acknowledged the second tailor. Thank you. One at a time, please. Then she addressed them all. Libya needs all this stuff? The 48 looked around at each other. And then they fluttered forward simultaneously, nodded their heads, and thought, yes! Felicity sighed and motioned to one tailor. You're first. Pick something and show Libya. In an hour, she looked at the pile. She looked up and motioned to another tailor. In half an hour, you pick something and show Libya. After you show Libya, show Donter, and he can start making some things. Donter, pick a tailor to help with each thing. Elloni thought in. I thought once the tailors returned, we were going to move off the plains. Felicity looked at her. Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's first. Let's move into the trees. So everyone packed, and the 48 tailors gathered all the things they had borrowed. Keechan thought, I packed and said goodbye, so may I come with you? I don't mind, thought Libya. I don't think it's supposed to be easy. When my pa told me to find dragons and rescue the village, I didn't know anything about fighting. Then I'll be a friend you need. Then 5 more tailors flew into the center, and they placed a tiny dragon down in the center. The dragon looked like a little toy, but not for long, as the tailors released their charm they had cast. A bright yellow baby dragon stood in their circle. Many didn't know about the dragon, and several that knew had forgotten. There was just so much going on, but they all admired the dragon with yellow on her back and shades of orange and red as her scales went to her belly. Creminia, said Libya as she ran over to hug the dragon. Oh, you're beautiful. She looked at the tailors. Thank you for bringing her to me. Then Libya introduced Creminia to Baldian and Elloni. It didn't take long for the tailors to pack, and Libya was walking along in the woods with her 3 dragons beside her and the tailors fluttering around them. One tailor brought her 2 berries to eat as she walked. Libya smiled and thanked Bitsy. Do you have any of your meat left? Thought Bitsy. Yes, I have a little, thought Libya. Then I will flutter into your bundle and get it. Then Bitsy shrunk herself and went in the small gap of the bundle's opening. Moments later, she came out with a bite of dried meat and put it in Libya's hand. Libya stared down at her hand as the meat grew from a tiny speck to the size she remembered it to be. How do you do that? Thought Libya. Could I do that? Could I make things smaller and bigger? So Bitsy taught Libya some charms as they walked. Bradley woke to Brumman shaking his shoulders, saying, You're not supposed to sleep on us. And Browser's thoughts. Can you do invisibility? King Damantade is moving. I see and hears dragons. I don't think they're heading our way. I think they're going to Dripston Kingdom. I think they're looking for me, and who knows what logic they use to determine my direction. Bradley sat up and shook his head. He heard the distant sound of the dragons roaring, and he saw the worried look on both boys' faces. He looked for Hagar, and the little dark red dragon was just outside the bush, and he was looking up to the skies. Started Bradley. Hagar said he would keep watch. Bradley eased out of the bush and looked to the sky. He couldn't see anything, and the sounds of roars were barely drifting to them. He rubbed Hagar's neck. Hey, I'm awake and we know about the danger, so let's get back in the bush. Then Bradley crawled back under the huge bush. He looked at the 2 boys and said, I need to think. Hey, Bradley, did you get my thoughts? Yes, the dragons seem far away, so I'm going to see if I can think with Mersic and give some warning, since you said the dragons might be going to the other kingdom. Yes, do that, and then think with me. Oh, wait, do you know invisibility? Those tailors did. No, but I'll think with the witch. Soflin received. How do you do invisibility charms? Can you do that? Can I send that charm to Mersic? We think the dragons are going his way. Okay, slow down. Who is Mersic? Remember Browser was giving me names? Well, he gave me Merrick, and the charm went on Mersic, who lived in the other kingdom. We hear dragons right now. I guess Browser may see the dragons in their direction, but we don't. Browser asked if I knew invisibility, because the tailors knew invisibility. I don't know how he knows that, but he escaped with their help. Wait, Browser knows where the tailors are? Okay, I sense things are happening right now. So we will think together after you give the charm to Mersic. Here are the words. Mercier, Silvis, Spiritus, Os, Infeltide, Decido, Padoth, Silvici, Ek, Doc, Ayoste. Some of those words you know. And remember, that dogs still smell. Oh, and when you think back, we need to think about you sharing magic and if that worked and what happened. I only gave a partial charm and not all the protections. And I thought about it later, and I apologize now if anything bad happened. I tried to send magic to you to help, and that's when I remembered the protections. We'll think later, thought Bradley. All the adults, Kosher and Kala, connected with everyone else in Hoshman's group. That way, all 5 younger ones had many eyes and thoughts going to them. Kosher thought to Hoshman the suspicion he had about the words, and Hoshman agreed that they needed to be careful with the words. After the 2 women passed out their stash of berries to everyone, the group once again headed southwest, and they kept their eyes peeled for some wild food. Mersic was in the courtyard, and he and several other soldiers were sparring when they heard the sounds. They froze and glanced at each other. King Damontade's soldiers hadn't outright attacked them in several years, since his dragons had killed or imprisoned theirs, and since rumor said that King Damontade had imprisoned the last linker. But the sounds of horns were not announcing a visit and tax collection. The sounds of the horn were the old but familiar sounds of war. The lead soldiers started shouting orders to close down the kingdom, and soldiers started scrambling to follow those orders. Mersic was helping to close the doors on the south side of the courtyard when he received, "Mersic, it's me, Bradley. Browser thinks King Damontade is looking for him." Mersic glanced around, and he kept pulling on the large gate with his fellow soldiers. He thought, I wonder if everyone can hear this voice too. They probably can't, because I only cast a charm on the linker known as Merrick, and that charm landed on you. I thought with the witch, and I want you to repeat these words. Mersic only half listened to the words, but he repeated them in his mind. The next thing he knew, a lead soldier was asking, "Where's Mersic? I thought I saw him right there." "I'm here," said Mersic. "Repeat these words." Then he shouted the words that Bradley had given him, and the soldiers repeated them, since they were in the mode of taking orders, and they didn't fully process that the order didn't come from the lead soldier. The lead soldier looked around, and only saw half his troops. But now he was more alert, and saw that the chain was still in the air and taut. He shouted, "Repeat the words, Mersic, and everyone repeat them this time." Mersic strained against the chain. And then he shouted the words, 2 or 3 words at a time, and he saw more soldiers disappear. That's when he realized that he couldn't see his own hands or arms, and he wanted to hold them up and look at them, or where they were supposed to be. But the roaring was getting louder. The lead soldier looked around. He could still see some, so whatever the words were, they didn't work for everyone. He looked down at himself and saw that he too was invisible, since he had repeated the words. He just needed to spread the news through the kingdom. He motioned to another soldier. "Come, take Mersic's place. He needs to tell his words to the king." But the soldier didn't see the motion, so the lead soldier grabbed his arm and pulled him towards Mersic's position. Then the lead soldier and Mersic took off, with the lead holding onto Mersic's arm, and when they passed a group, the lead would shout to them to repeat Mersic's words. Mersic would shout his words, several would blink out of sight, and the lead would pull him on, until they made it to King Fatewright. King Fatewright looked for the person attached to the voice, but he couldn't see him. He knew the sound of the voice was Commander Cogsmith, so he repeated the words shouted from a voice he didn't recognize. But he remembered Commander Cogsmith saying Mersic's words. Then he looked down at his arms, couldn't see them. He looked down to his toes, couldn't see them either. King Fatewright shouted, "We have a new plan." He looked in the direction of Commander Cogsmith's voice. "Send Mersic to the village and have him give the words. Mersic, do we need to repeat the words?" I'm not sure. He started to say there was a voice in his head, but decided not to. King Fatewright motioned, Go tell the village. We will just repeat the words." Then he shouted new orders on how to handle the incoming enemy dragons and enemies. One thing he did was hold off on closing things down, and he told them to escape into the woods. They had to. Next, he had everyone hide, even the kingdom people. His instructions were to repeat the words every few minutes so as not to forget them, and to hide until the enemies dismounted and looked for them. Enemy dragons landed in an empty courtyard and an empty sparring area. The kingdom seemed empty, too. The lead enemy commanders held a quiet discussion about what to do, and they decided that if no one was here, then all they needed to do was find Browser and his dragon and kill them both. Excuse me. King Fate-Right's soldiers could hear what the enemy soldiers planned, especially as the main enemy lead commander shouted his orders, so they would try to stay out of sight and sound of the soldiers. The non-invisible soldiers stood in the darkest corners and behind the invisible ones, and the soldiers passed around a silent hope that the enemy was just going to look and not burn. After all, there were treaties in place, so if the enemy didn't find whoever they were looking for, then the enemy should leave their kingdom alone. However, they prepared themselves to fight. Commander Cogsmith got the king out of the kingdom, and he would hide him in the woods. A few years ago, when they made the treaty, and King Damon-Tade stopped attacking, King Fate-Right started looking for some place to hide his people. They found some caves in the woods to the southeast of the kingdom and southeast of the village. They had placed extra stores there, and King Fate-Right trained his soldiers around the clock. He knew King Damon-Tade's obsession with power, and he knew King Damon-Tade would not let up. He was surprised the attacks had dwindled down to just a few a month, and he was surprised that during those attacks, King Damon-Tade's soldiers only displayed their strength and no longer burned down structures. But without his own dragons, King Fate-Right couldn't hope to fight them, and so he paid hefty fines and taxes every time they came. This visit was alarming because King Damon-Tade's soldiers just came a week ago, and it sounded like many more dragons were coming than normal. In the middle of walking through the woods, Elloni paused. She just stayed still. The Taylors and Libya were concerned, but as Libya stroked Elloni, she started seeing pictures as well. She saw a courtyard full of black dragons. The dragons were watching soldiers go here and there, and they were awaiting orders. Neither Libya nor Elloni knew where the pictures were located or what exactly was going on. Elloni thought, I am Elloni. What is going on? And then she thought that again, but she got no response. So she thought, are you my ancestors in the message? Have you consumed a potion? Is the potion a one-time thing? Or do you get one every day? Or information opened up for Elloni. So she thought, or week, or month, or season. Does the potion leave a mark? I am Elloni. Why are you showing this to me? Libya was less sure of what was going on, but she thought to Elloni, I think these dragons belong to King Damon-Tade. Seems like the dragons are preparing for something. Maybe you're seeing things before the dragons flew to my village last, and before they burned it. I don't know, thought Elloni. She leaned down and puffed a small breath of air in Libya's hair. I'm not trying to interrupt things, thought Felicity, but we need to keep going. Yes, we do, thought Elloni, and then they continued walking with the Taylors. The invisible soldiers did their best to stay out of the way of the enemy soldiers who were searching for someone. The enemy soldiers just raked things on the ground until finally they saw a soldier who was hiding, and they went to kill him. But 3 invisible soldiers pulled their swords and killed the enemy first, and then they killed the other 2 enemy soldiers who were in the armory. They hoped no other enemies would come in and find their dead comrades. So one invisible soldier posted watch as all 4 said the words to the spell again. Still the one didn't turn invisible. The 3 soldiers worked at getting the dead soldiers hidden under armor in the armory, and they tried not to make too much noise doing it. But the lookout whispered, "They're making plenty of noise, so just get the job done." Unbeknownst to them, this same situation happened in several other places, like the communal barn where the kingdom kept its horses and in the blacksmith's work hut. And when the soldiers weren't reporting back, the lead soldier was becoming spooked. But he held off on ordering the dragons to breathe fire because his soldiers might be in the structures. Finally, the lead soldier yelled, "We know you're housing Browser and his dragon. Turn him and his dragon over to us, or we will burn down your entire kingdom." Browser, I connected with Mercic for a while, and I was repeating the invisibility words to him over and over. "What do you see? What's going on?" "Give me the words again. Dronstein and I are flying there, and we were invisible, but now I can see myself again. We don't want King Demete to burn down the kingdom. If we're invisible, Dronstein can breathe water on the fire." Bradley gave him the words again, and then he thought, "We still need you. We may have allies in this kingdom. I have to help them. Besides, I'm pretty sure King Demete thinks I'm there, or they would be safe. If I'm invisible, which I am now, thank you, and thank the witch. What was her name? Never mind for now. If I'm invisible, then we can just watch. We won't douse fires if there are no fires. Just be ready to send me more magic." I need to talk to the witch, Soflin, again, because there were protections I need for myself. Hurry! Soflin, I may need to send Browser more magic. He's going to help King Fateright's kingdom if King Damontade's soldiers start burning anything. Soflin and Lydia were walking, and they had come to the river. Soflin stopped Lydia and indicated that he should stop and rest for a moment. "Things are happening." Lydia nodded and sat down. She watched the water and waited. Soflin thought to Bradley, "Are you safe? Where are you? I mean, if I concentrate on the charms I cast, I can tell you and Broman and Coulter are together, and I could find you. But just tell me, because you are far from me." "We are under the same bush we slept under last night," thought Bradley. "Browser didn't want us to move. But now he's going to the enemy." "Yes, but a linker's job is to protect. Not everyone is a linker, and every privilege comes with responsibilities. You, it seems, have a lot of privileges, and I, for one, am glad the universe has provided you. Browser seems to think you are his personal holder, and magic has not flourished in quite some time, but there's a saying, life finds a way. Magic is life, and it has found a way in you. We need to talk quite a bit more, but the additional words you need are no kalkari sophis pa ek tarki plus either mashai for alive, egert for conscious, or lexita lumi for alert and aware," thought Soflin. "Do you know if my magic reached you last time?" "I'm not really sure. I think I passed out," thought Bradley, "and I was dizzy when I woke up." "Well, from that information, I'm not sure either. You use the extra words, and I'll try to send magic again." They agreed and stopped thinking together. Soflin explained some of what was going on to Lydia. Then Soflin sent magic to Bradley once again. Lydia repeated the words she heard Soflin say, and she added Lydia's name. She saw a small stream of dew leave her. Soflin watched the dew go. "You're sending magic too? Who are you sending to?" I don't know. I just repeated your words, and instead of Bradley, I said Libya." Soflin nodded her head a little. Magic was starting to flourish once again. Dear, if you hear my words, memorize them, yes. but don't say them unless you understand them. Thankfully, I picked the words that would send the least, because I wanted us to travel today. I wanted to get to the plains or the grasslands and slide across. But I could have said the words to just keep myself alive, and at that point I would have needed you to keep watch. Lydia cringed. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Don't be sorry. Just be careful. Now, let me check on your sister. If you felt she needed magic, she might need more, too. Lydia was quiet while Soflin checked on Libya. After a few minutes, Soflin opened her eyes. Mind you, I can't check on everyone, but I cast a charm on your sister when she was leaving the village. Did you cast a charm on me? Burst Lydia. Soflin laughed a little. No, you were with me. Lydia held out her arms as she looked at him. But don't I need it? What if we get separated? Soflin laughed to herself a little more, but then she saw Lydia's desperation. I will cast one, but don't you want the rest of the news first? Oh, yes, sorry, said Lydia. You need to stop being sorry, stated Soflin. You've done nothing wrong. Now, if soldiers capture you or something, and I'm not trying to cast negative, I'm just explaining, if the soldiers capture you, then saying you're sorry might save your life. So go ahead then, and you can say sorry as many times as you need to. Anyway, your sister. Your sister, it seems, has found the tailors. It seems there were a lot of them around her. But your sister did need a little magic because many tailors are, as you probably know them, fairies. They're little creatures, she motioned with her hands. They look like we do, like humans, but they have wings and they fly here and there. Anyway, many tailors were trying to teach Libya at the same time. So I instructed your magic just as it entered her to set up partitions in her mind so she can learn all they're trying to teach. Not many people can handle the partitions, so I need to check on her again when we stop for a bite. Now, are you ready to cross the river? Lydia looked at the water and shook her head. No, not really. The water looks so peaceful, and I like the sound it makes. But it scares me. Soflin chuckled again. She liked Lydia's innocence and naivete. We have magic, so we can make the air hard like a bridge in a small space. Lydia opened her eyes wide and looked at Soflin. Really? Yes, we won't get wet at all. Now I said small space because it is a strong charm and the water is moving, so the air likes to move with it. What I'm telling you is that you can't say the charm for a bridge and then leave it. Am I making my own bridge? Lydia asked. Of course. If you want to, then make your own bridge, stated Soflin. Soflin spoke the words aloud, and they crossed the river. Lydia was successful, but her bridge was much narrower than Soflin's, and Soflin cast a charm on Lydia. She also cast the same one she cast on Bradley so they could think together. Just before they left the river's edge, Soflin remembered they needed to fill their water sacks, and luckily Lydia had a small water sack with her. Libya walked along as many tailors thought this or thought that to her, and sometimes several would flutter before her and make a picture while still others were thinking to her about several other things. Libya didn't want to be ungrateful, but she couldn't listen to them all at once. Then she felt a warmth into her. It felt like her head caught on fire on the inside, and then the fire flowed through her body. Felicity stopped the group. Libya, what's going on? I saw a magic enter you. Who would send you magic? Do you know who I am? Libya nodded. Yes, I know you are Felicity. She looked around and hoped she didn't have to name many more tailors. There were just too many to remember all their names, even though they introduced themselves before each lesson. She looked back at Felicity and said, I feel hot, like I have a fever. Felicity thought to everyone, The magic looked friendly and concerned, but we should let it settle before we continue her lessons. And we need to go one at a time. Several started to protest that there wasn't enough time for only one to go at a time. But Felicity shook her head and said the universe would allow Libya time to learn. The group continued walking, and Elloni thought with Baldian and Cremenia. Did you see magic enter Libya? Yes, I saw it, thought Baldian. I saw something, thought Cremenia. And I saw something else enter the magic just before it went into Libya. Yes, I saw that too, thought Elloni. But what entered her felt very close to her. I don't know how to explain it. I knew it wasn't Libya's own magic, but I'm not sure what the difference was exactly. Yes, thought Baldian, the tailors are teaching her magic, but they don't call it that. But the magic that injured her knew it was magic. Yes, that's it, thought Elloni. That was definitely a difference. Well, let's watch over her a little more closely for the next couple of hours. It's harder today, thought Baldian. Felicity thought to the tailors to take turns, but I was quite a bit overwhelmed with all they are teaching her today, and it's like they are teaching with an extra urgency. Elloni agreed, and they continued walking, and it wasn't too long before the tailors started the lessons again. Several looked around and didn't sense someone else teaching Libya, and thus decided it was their turn. They had looked around a few seconds different, but the group started teaching at the same time once again. Elloni watched the magic and saw the magic direct different thoughts to different areas. She decided to ponder that further. Okay, writers, that is the end of chapter 11. A lot is happening. When Browser escaped, what did you think would happen? Did you think that King Damante would put together a search party? That was most likely to happen. So, where did you think they would search? I guess I haven't shown you a map of the land yet. I do have one. And it's in Excel, if you can believe that. And Excel's nice and easy because you put a square as green and then you can slide it down and make a lot of green squares or whatever. So it makes it nice and easy to make a map. Anyway, I haven't showed that to you. So that would have limited your answers. But you knew of Underwood Village. You may not know where it is on the map, but you knew of Underwood Village, and you may have answered that. If you answered that, then you would have thought, what's going to happen to the rest of the villagers and stuff like that. So, but still, where did you think he would search? Did you think that maybe he would comb the grass or the woods and find the linkers, or what did you think he would have done? Also, leave a comment below on if you were Browser. Would you fly into this other kingdom to help them? Even if you could fly invisibly? I mean, Browser just got out of prison. He's like, just let me breathe a breath of fresh air. And he's rubbing his wrist because the cuffs had been on him a long time. He was stiff. He just got out of prison. If the enemy soldiers find him, they aren't going to drag him back to prison. They are going to kill him. Because his purpose has served. His symbol lit up. The dragons have hatched. They don't need him anymore. They were only keeping him in case the new linkers went to find him. So they're going to kill him. Leave a comment below on if you were Mersic. Would you have just repeated the words in your head without thinking about them, just because you were taking orders already? This is fun stuff. Anything you can imagine can happen. Now, on Tuesday, we talked about the jargon and keeping names straight, and I have been very careful in this story. Libya and Lydia are very close names, and it would be very easy to mistype the name and put the wrong name in place. So I've tried to be very careful that when I have Lydia going, I have the name spelled correctly. But that was some of what I was talking about. Not the whole thing, but, you know, you want to make sure your jargon is correct. You want to make sure you use the right name. You want to make sure your sentences that are supposed to be negative are negative, and the ones that are positive are supposed to be positive. That kind of stuff. So that's some of the stuff. But in this story, Libya and Lydia had the names close together so that Libya could go out in the village with the villagers sometimes and get some exposure to some of those things. That's part of the story. That's part of why the names are like that. That's why I picked those names. Like I said, this is fun stuff. Anything you can imagine can happen. And then you go back and edit and make sure that what you imagined is actually typed. Anyway, join me Tuesday for some talk about some things that are anticlimactic. And we'll also talk about cliffhangers. Join me Friday for chapter 12 of Elloni's Pride, Breaking Point, King Fate Right. Visit my website, bymichaela.com, and read some character bios. If you read some, then leave a comment on which ones you've read. I hope to start adding more bios to the website as well. I haven't been so good about writing bios. I thought I would after NaNoWriMo finished, but I haven't been so good. Anyway, I'll get there. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and hit the bell so we can continue to write together. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Michaela with Write with Michaela. Bye for now.